We are our harshest critic, and it's really important to be our harshest critic as well. How do you know if you play in tune? It's pretty obvious. Hi, I'm violinist Timothy Chooi, and today we're going to be mastering intonation, and I'm going to share with you a few quick tips. Let's get right into it. So tip number one is to tune your strings. Playing accuracy is key. So you want to make sure you tune your strings really well before you touch any of the repertoire. So the most important string for us to start with is the A. So, of course, you're not going to do this out of thin air. You need some sort of reference. Usually you have a choice. Either you play this with a piano, the piano hits the A, or it's an oboe in an orchestra. And if you don't have any reference, my recommendation, especially if you're starting out, is to use a tuner. Whether that's Hertz 441, 442, 440, we can get into that another time. But I recommend choosing one and tuning to it. What you're looking for is accuracy, that both your A on your violin and also with the drone is matching completely in unison, and it should be completely together. So once the A is completely in tune, you need to tune the other strings. So how we tune this is in double stops. So what are we listening to as we tune in double stops, and why? Similarly to why we need a drone to tune our A string to, we need some sort of reference in order for the pitch to be in tune with. So when you're tuning your violin, what you're looking for is a ring in the sound quality. It should feel like there is a harmonious unison between the A and D string. So even though it is two pitches, they ring together. It's a very complex way of listening, but the more you do it, the more you'll figure out when things are in tune and out of tune. And my recommendation as you're tuning is to tune slowly and softly. There's no rush when tuning. The turtle wins the race and not the hare. So tune slowly with a consistent bow speed, not very loud, because if you press on the open strings, what happens is you start to distort the pitch and it usually goes sharp. Tip number two is to use a tuner even when you're practicing your repertoire. So practicing with a tuner can also come in handy. It really gives you some sort of guidance of how far off you are with your intonation. There are many apps available these days, but there's also some gadgets that you can get for yourself. So how do you know if you're playing in tune? It's pretty obvious. So it's either a red light or a green light. When it's a green light, you're playing in tune. When you're out of tune, you're pretty far off. It's completely red or it's the greenish red. So it's a little bit of a more basic way of figuring out intonation without a lot of the nuances, but it's a great way to understand how to even start to listen for your intonation. So get yourself an app, there's plenty available, or get yourself a gadget. Next tip is developing your listening skills. Listen to recordings of skilled violinists, pay attention to the way that they play and their intonation, and bring some of that precision into your own violin playing. We learn by listening to other musicians and other violinists, and we replicate them, so this is one really effective way to improve your intonation. The next tip, which is a very obvious one, but it's one that we always forget, is to practice slowly. Practicing slowly allows you to really listen to yourself, both for intonation and all other sorts of things that you should be listening to as you practice. Oftentimes, many people practice too fast. We're always in a rush. We get frustrated. We want to make things happen. We force it to happen. We need to take a step back and practice slowly. As the accuracy improves, then you can gradually pick up the pace, you can play faster, and at least the intonation will be there and you know what things are in tune and what are not in tune, so you can understand how to fix it rather than playing too fast, practicing too fast, and having to take a step backwards at a later stage. A very important tip is to record yourself. We are our harshest critic, and it's really important to be our harshest critic as well. As you record yourself, what you're going to quickly identify is the areas you need to improve. Working on specific passages will help fine-tune your intonation. You can spot listen to it, and you can record yourself very easily on any device these days. And it's a really fantastic and effective way to really understand if you're playing in tune based on other ways of determining your intonation through tuners, through listening skills, and practicing slowly. When you do practice fast or you perform fast, it's really wonderful and a really great idea to record yourself so you have reference to listen to it at a later stage so that you can identify if the passages or your overall intonation is going in the right direction or not. Next tip is to practice scales and arpeggios. Practice these focusing on consistent finger placement for each note. Not only will this refine your technique, but also it trains your muscle memory for pitch perfect performances and consistency as you go forwards in your training. What's also really important as you do these scales and arpeggios is to practice a bulk of them without vibrato so you get the purity of the intonation from the get-go.